We love our Mercedes-Benz, but somehow I feel hated because I actually told the truth about our car. Yeah, it started out way back several years ago when we bought the car secondhand, slightly used off a dealer, and we enjoyed it. We wanted to try something new. We bought a BMWs for a number of years, and it was time to change back to Mercedes-Benz because we had an ML500 many years ago. We love that car, or SUV, but that one started to rust away, so we got into BMW land. Then, numerous years of BMWs, and we thought we would try something like Mercedes-Benz again. It's been a while, but it was time to try something like this again, and we did. We sat down with the local sales guy. He was absolutely superb. Great experience on the front end, buying the car, the test drive, the demonstration, everything was top shelf. As a matter of fact, the first year of the car was also great, and we enjoyed every single minute of the car. But things started to change. Now overall, mechanically, the car's been pretty sound. For an 8-year-old car, it's actually holding up fairly well. But I've given numerous examples of things that are falling apart in the car. You know, things do go with age. We know that every car will break, every car will fail. We're hearing stories from Lexus and Toyota having problems of their own. So we know, in fact, that it doesn't matter how good the brand is, there will be issues. And we've sort of accepted the imperfection of a lot of these brands, if you will. We've sort of skated around that, understanding there will be things that pop up. You know, we've had issues with trim, bubbling trim, like I've explained on a previous video. On this trim right here, we have some bubbling going on under there. We've also had some bubbling and some peeling of interior trim. That's also been a thing that's creeped up, it seems like, in the last couple of months. We've also had this trim right here starting to peel away. Not totally sure what's going on there. But you know what? We generally treat the car gently, we keep it clean, and we look after it. And it generally, for the most part, looks after us. In the time we've owned it, we've had numerous fault codes, lights, for all kinds of electrical problems. And that's where the beginning of the problems start for us. Now, in that time, only one true check engine light. That's right, where there's actually a mechanical failure of some sort. We had a PCV, or a positive crankcase ventilation issue with the car, and I've explained that in detail before, but you know, we were driving it last summer and all of a sudden out of nowhere, bing, check engine light. I pulled it over, I pulled the code, recognized it had to do with the positive crankcase ventilation. We took it into the dealer, and the dealer again was superb. They were great in handling it. They told us that Mercedes-Benz had actually extended a 10-year warranty out beyond, of course, the original warranty, because they recognize that there's some sort of inherent flaw in that design, allegedly, that PCV system, which is quite expensive to repair. And I've heard people on the forums talk about that being upward of $1,500 to $2,000 just because of the extensive amount of labor costs having to disconnect. I believe there was motor mounts and all kinds of piping and plumbing that had to be disconnected. It was a pretty substantial repair. And so I'm sure glad the warranty covered it, and I'm very glad that our local dealer was able to take that care of that for us. They've always been good, they shuttle us around, and honestly, overall the dealer experience has been pretty good. However, this kind of comes to the point where I can't help but start to take this a little bit more personally. I think it almost feels as though there's something else, and it hasn't all been perfect. We've had lots of great experiences. Service, of course, service A and B's we've had looked after, because when we bought the car, there was an included plan, a maintenance plan with the car. And every year the car was looked after, no muss, no fuss. We even got loaners in some cases. Again, I stand by, the dealer generally treated us well, and I really have no issues with the dealer for the most part, right? Like, they treated us well through and through. But you know, as time goes on, we started experiencing these issues, and I talked about this. How one time we took the car in, and we took it in for an oil service. It was kind of on time, but it was really cold time of year. I think it was in the winter, it must have been December, January sometime. I could probably go back in my paperwork. But the reality, what happened there was, the car started emitting some kind of codes. But when were those codes? Well, right after the service. So we took it in for an oil service. At some point, they decided, decided to do a shampoo under the hood. For whatever reason, it was dusty, oily, whatever the reason was. There was an oil shampoo, or a water shampoo, which we'd never asked for, but anyway, it was done. And since that time, we have had a whole multitude of issues. Now keep in mind, overall we love the car, still. Even with its squeaks, its rattles, its kind of obscure, weird sounds from time to time, and the odd fault code that pops up. But you know, when those fault codes pop up, it's almost at a point where we just sort of acknowledge it, accept it. Eventually, it sometimes just clears itself. And it usually related somehow to lights. It says your right park light is faulty, or there's a fault. And it's usually a yellow fault indicator on the dash, or your left light's faulty, or there's some sort of light or sensing software or some kind of sensor failure. But there's no check engine lights. It's usually just some sort of a yellow fault code that tells us that there's something not working with probably part of the ADAS system, or some sort of system on board that kind of keeps you safe and keeps pedestrians around you safe. Some of that system and the lighting seems to kind of come and go and goes afray. And it always seems to be related right after we had that service where we had the engine shampooed. It seemed to really take over. And the unfortunate part, let's be honest, you know, I was a perfectionist, and I still kind of am a little bit maybe over the top sometimes. But you know, it was a fairly new car. It wasn't brand new when we bought it. So the point in buying a new car is you don't have problems. I mean, otherwise, why would you ever buy a new car? Why don't you just keep buying 10 or 15-year-old cars if the fact is you have to accept a lower level of durability, a lower level of quality, parts that maybe need replacing, wear and tear that's already in place. If I wanted a car that had rippling plastics, damaged trim, plastics like this that seem to be coming off like that, if I was okay in accepting those failures and those idiosyncrasies, then I'd probably just buy an older used car. But that was the hope. We bought a late model car with an additional warranty, and we thought we were going to avoid some of those ins and outs by simply buying something fairly late model. See, because not only on top of some of these issues that we've had with these weird ghosty codes, which we're quite frankly, quite honestly, at the point where we just sort of let it go. It doesn't even matter anymore. Now the car's 8 years old. Outside of that, it seems to be running fairly well. It runs a little diesely, but it runs quite well overall, has good performance, and gives us back decent fuel economy in a time when, let's be honest, we need some of that economy on our side. We do love the car, again, but there's another element why I think the dealer actually hates me, why I think we're not liked, specifically me, because I'm always the one dealing with this. My wife drives the car for the most part, but I get to do the dirty work. I take it in for servicing. I try to wrench whenever I can. Sometimes I've got to raise some of these concerns with the dealers. We've got a few dealers in the area, but I'm the one that has to raise the concerns, so I kind of bring this front and center. But one time we hit a set of train tracks. I've explained this on videos upon videos, and I'm just leading up to why I truly believe we're not liked, and I'll get to that here in a second. But remember, I've expressed this and I've shown this. We hit a set of train tracks a couple years. I think we were about 2 years into the ownership, 1.5 to 2 years into the car, maybe not even, probably 1.5 years. And we hit a set of train tracks. They were a little rough, but I hit them every day with my truck, and we've driven over those with other cars. We have an older 911 Carrera. We've had numerous other cars, or Benzes or Beamers, and all these other cars. We've never really had any issues. A little crunk, the typical. But we hit that for some reason. And when that happened, I heard this bang. This speaker right here went right into the cavity. See, it went right into the door panel, which was really weird. I mean, why would that pop in? Because the vast majority of these interiors these days are snapped together. And this isn't just Mercedes-Benz. No. Every brand kind of does that these days. I just even look at like our later model 911. It's not snapped together like our older air-cooled cars that were actually, you could literally get a 10mm Allen key or a screwdriver, and you could run away and basically disassemble 2/3 of the car with that one tool. And everything was screwed together, and it wasn't perfect, but it was bolted. It felt like it was built structurally sound. Even the new 911s have a lot more plastic under the hood, and they're different. I mean, that's the industry as a whole. But when that speaker popped out, this here also popped down and fell down. And I just explained this. I get this. I mean, this is going beyond just that video, but this actually snapped down. This is a coupe, so when you look at the sedan, the 4 doors, this panel doesn't rise like this, but on the coupe it rises higher like this. So this panel's a little bit higher. This popped down about 1/2 inch. We took it into the dealer, kind of moped and complained a little bit, and they said, okay, yeah, it's still under warranty, we'll fix that up for you. They put it together, snapped it together, but it's been that level of imperfection all along. I mean, it still has a different gap here. I mean, you look at the gap here, it's nice and tight. It's loose here. And so it's better than it was after hitting the tracks, but I mean, it's still kind of loose. And quite honestly, if we take this and look around the other side, I'll give you an example what the other side looks like. This side is tight. I mean, look at this. It's almost looser here. Right here, it's like it moves, but the gap is perfect. So like it looks like it's a better fitment on this side. That said, these gaps are different than these gaps, which are super tight. But again, we're not here to talk and complain. Those are nickel and dime concerns. I'm not even concerned about that. The point was body panels are falling off just because I hit a set of train tracks. And again, that in itself wasn't a big deal because the warranty covered it. But it seemed like every time I walk into the dealer, I was complaining about body panels falling off or some squeaky noise because we still had warranty. And I know there was a weird noise coming from the front differential. And all I did was complain. Every time they saw me, it's either they're paying out of their pocket for the A and B service, or I'm coming to complain about some weird squeaky noise there, or I'm complaining about something going on here with these panels falling off or the speaker falling off, or some other obscure issue like these codes. So every time I seem to show up at the dealer, I'm always showing up with some bad news, and I'm always there the one to complain. Like I said, I'm the one that has to kind of explain. My wife, usually sometimes she'll drop the car off, but it's usually me that actually has to express what's going on, what the concerns are, and get to the bottom of it. Well, I'll give you an example what makes me believe I'm now hated. It's not just the fact that I'm vocal about this, because I like to talk about this, and you know, as a YouTuber, I really do like to share the experiences. And again, I'd rather have this than a Honda Accord. I'd rather have this than a Toyota Camry. I want to put that on the table. It's still a fun car, still economical, and relatively reliable overall. But believe you and me, I'm not the kind of bitch and moan and complain all the time. I'm rather the type of person that if I can just fix something simply, like if a piece of trim comes off, I'd much rather just spend the 10 minutes, use some double-sided tape, snap it back together. It really doesn't bother me. I do a lot of my own servicing, and I'm not here to complain and moan. When you have warranty, you might as well take them up on it. But outside of that, I generally don't care that much. And like I said, even with the fault codes, now we've gotten to the point where we've just acknowledged and accepted it. We actually had another one of these codes, these groups of codes pop up, I think it was about a month ago, less than a month ago. We also had an ABS sensor pop up. Okay, now we're talking about standard maintenance issues that can creep in there with older cars. That's gonna happen, and I would fully expect as the car ages, there will be more of those weird anomalies and more parts to replace and fix things to fix. But it seems every time I go down to the dealership, it seems like I'm probably whining. And the last time I went into the dealership, here's where I'm coming from with this. Why I truly believe I feel like I'm hated around the dealership network is not just because I'm vocal in the way, not to run up and down and scream, you know, and say all these, you know, no, it's not about that. It's the fact that we did want to buy a newer car to avoid all these problems. And unfortunately, there just have been problems worth mentioning. And as a YouTuber, I want to talk about this. I have to share some of these experiences. Otherwise, what value do I bring to the community? These are luxury cars. And while they're, you know, in our mind, we have these romantic feelings of what owning a luxury car is all about. You know, these beautiful drives off into the sunset, driving our favorite luxury car with our favorite tunes playing, and, you know, to have the seat recline just perfectly and having that person, that special person sitting next to us and sailing off to the sunset. That's what we envision with a luxury car, having all the beautiful, you know, vibrating seats, heated, everything just right. Yes, and a lot of that actually does happen, but there is a reality: expensive repairs, unexpected breakdowns, and weird failures. So those things happen. So I'm the one always showing up at the dealership, trying to complain, not necessarily to complain, just say, look, we have this issue. I mean, if you have flashing lights on your dash, you want to get it fixed, right? I think it's probably best not to avoid it. So we take the car into the dealership time and time again. There's been numerous issues and unfortunately repeat issues. Now, those weird codes, when that happened, we immediately took it back to the dealer. They said they pulled a bunch of codes, and we had, remember this, the car was currently under warranty at that time. So at that time, we still had warranty. We could have addressed any issue. So we said, pull the codes. They pulled the codes. Yeah, nothing. There's some weird communication glitch. No big deal. We reset it. You're back on the road. We drove the car away. Good. It was great for a few weeks. Bing, again, more problems. Well, guess what? This repeat happened over and over and over a few times, in which case every time I reached out to the dealer, we kept getting, in my mind, bumped, getting told that, well, you know, yeah, we'll pull a reset, we'll do a reset for you, and you should be good to go again. And this happened a couple of times, and to the point where it didn't happen for a period of time, our warranty lapsed, and then it happened again. So we took it back to the dealer again. Here's Mark complaining, oh, here he comes again. Yeah, there he is. So coming back down to say, hey, we have this fault code, can you look at it? They looked at it. Now all of a sudden it seemed to be a bigger issue. Of course, they said, well, it looks like more of a communication issue. Could be modules. It could be a module issue on one end or the other. It seems like a communication loss somewhere, something hanging up. And it seemed like there was more information available after, allegedly, after the warranty was up. And then at which point there was really no suggestions other than the possibility of maybe starting to swap parts out like some of those infamous mechanics do, where they just start swapping out modules and parts and components, hopefully to find the right part or the issue. So that left us in such a deflated state. You know, the argument was that this was a pre-existing situation and condition, and then we were essentially told that no, it's actually a different set of circumstances. It looks similar, but it's different. It's like, this is exactly same symptoms that we were dealing with. We had the same yellow lights on the dash, the same conditions, the same problems, and yet now all of a sudden they're unique. And now if there's some big repairs and costs associated, now it would be on our dime. So at that point, we just sort of gave up. You know what, we sort of gave it, enough is enough. We're walking away from that. And you know what, realistically, we've been driving it like this. Fault comes in, goes away after a while. It comes in, goes away. So something going on, something not quite right, but we've been just sort of accepting and living with it. Now, the part where I truly believe I'm hated, all I was trying to do was fix a problem. I mean, we bought a car, we were hoping it's fairly reliable, and it's been pretty good overall, but we've had this nagging problem going. So, I mean, most people would probably do exactly what I did. Would you do the same thing I did? Probably, right? But where this leads is, you know, last year I was going, you know, the service plan ran out. The AB service plan ran out, and it was time to do a service. So I went down and I scurried on down to the local dealership, and, you know, I grabbed some supplies and you know, filter, and I think I grabbed the oil and the rings and all that good jazz. And at the first moment where I really felt like, wow, I'm really hated, because it was funny. I walked in, and as I walked into the dealer, there was a lot of hustle bustle. There was a lot of activity, sales guys. There was a lot of people, activity, movement late in the afternoon. There was just lots going on, and it felt like a very energized environment. As soon as we walked in, everything went shh. We headed straight to the parts department, at which point they were fine there, but it seemed like everybody just scattered. As soon as we walked in, there was looks, eyes, peering, and everybody just sort of scattered. You know, when we first walked in, it was noise. As we were in there for 5 minutes, there was nothing. It was silence. Everybody sort of kind of scattered, and it was a weird thought. The person I was with actually said this exact same thing. I didn't a reserved comment at the time, but once we left, he had said to me, it seemed really weird and awkward. I think they know who you are. And I'm like, well, I think you're right. It did feel like a moment in the Twilight Zone. But again, this isn't a thing against, I had a great experience. I know a lot of the people at that dealership, and I really overall had a good experience at the dealership, buying the car, servicing the car, dealing with most of the problems along the way. But unfortunately, there was that one issue that just kept hanging and hanging and hanging. So overall, it's been a good experience, and we still like our car. But I just can't help to feel that all the things that I've talked about now puts me on one of the most hated lists. I'd like to hear your thoughts down there below, everybody. Do you have any of those such stories like that where you feel now too that you're not wanted around? Because that's kind of how I felt, unwanted, like I shouldn't be there. That's almost kind of the sense, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. Please do drop a line. And again, as always, everybody, you have a wonderful day. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.